Hogwarts Castle, a 5-inch gauge locomotive, Part 8, thoroughly cleaning the wheels using a Proxxon motor tool and dismantling the front bogie. This is the smallest motor tool in the Proxxon range that I have, and here you see it fitted with a wire brush which I'm using to clean all of the paint from the spokes. These wheels have been in a tub of cellulose thinners for quite a while, but there's still some paint left stuck to the spokes and the surrounding area. The shape of this wire brush makes it very easy to get in between the spokes and clean off all the residue. Time for a very serious health and safety warning. These wire brushes, fitted into a motor tool revolving at 20,000 RPM plus, can be very dangerous. As you use these wire brushes on jobs like this, the wire brush itself will start to shed the bristles over a period of time. And these bristles are made from stainless steel, so it's definitely time to wear some P.P.E. That stands for Personal Protective Equipment, and in this case you need to make sure you have some safety glasses on. Please do not confuse P.P.E. with P.P.I., which is an entirely different thing, and you won't get many emails or phone calls offering to sort out your P.P.E. To be serious for just one moment, it's very important to wear safety glasses when doing a job like this. This brush, with the bristles facing forward, seems to shed the least of the stainless steel bristles. The worst offender is definitely the wire brush with the bristles at 90 degrees to the shaft. They fly out in all directions all the time. This Proxxon motor tool has a collet fitted, and it's important to make sure that you have the correct collet to hold the tool. These wire brushes are sort of in between the sizes of the two largest collets, so it's the second one down that holds them tightly. These wire brushes were bought from China via eBay. In the past I've used Dremel wire brushes and Proxxon wire brushes, but these cheap Chinese ones seem to be just as good. They last about the same length of time. This is a very tricky and tedious job. I'm cleaning off the paint from the motion. I'm going to repaint these eccentric rods, but I need to remove the old paint first. The good thing about these wire brushes is they don't really damage the surface of the metal very much. I mentioned that this type of wire brush is the worst for shedding bristles, and look, this is what happens after a while. Metal fatigue sets in, the bristles fracture and fly off. And here you can see the shed bristles on the bench along with particles of paint, so it's a good idea to wear a breathing mask as well. Often I would use my airline to just blow particles off the bench, but in this case I'm using the vacuum cleaner. And the wire brush goes in the bin. Unlike some miniature locomotives, this particular one does not have the balance weights as part of the wheel casting. Instead, it has two metal plates either side of the spokes that are riveted together, and the gaps are filled with lead. Not all of them, just 3 of them in this case. And in this clip I'm cleaning up the lead part using a needle file. Then it's back to more rotary tool work. I thought this was never going to end because although there are only 3 wheel sets, there are 6 wheels, and it took quite a while. And this part took even longer. And I lost the will to live on several occasions. But eventually 99.9% of the paint was removed, and now I'm going to fill the gap between the balance weight plates and the wheel rim. If you've been watching this series, you will know that in a previous episode I've already done this, but the last time I did this job the wheels were painted and I couldn't do it this way, so I'm going to show you this method. I'm applying cellulose putty to the gap, and I brush over the cellulose putty with some cellulose thinners, or lacquer thinner as it's known in the USA, and then I wipe off the surplus. And in this clip I'm using some more cellulose thinners to wipe off the surplus putty around the rivets. There were some blowholes in this particular wheel casting. In this clip I'm filling the holes in the casting using some cellulose putty again, this time applied with a brush, and then I wash it over with cellulose thinners and it becomes very smooth. And it will require a minimum of sanding. And in case you missed the first bit, here it is again. I'm filling one of the other balance weights. It's a wipe on, wipe off situation. I need to fill the gap between the balance weight and the rim, but I still need to see the gap if you know what I mean. I showed this in the last episode, and this is the stuff I've been using. It's cellulose putty or knifing putty. After a lot of effort, here is a shot of the 3 pairs of wheels ready for painting. Please be aware, in the previous video when I showed the painting, that was sort of a test. And I didn't bother masking the crank pin. I didn't really need to mask any of it because I knew there was going to be a problem with the paint reacting with the primer. And yes, a viewer called Inspector Meticulous did point this out. That's 3 wheels cleaned up, now I need to clean up some more. In fact, I'm going to take the paint off this bogie entirely. First of all, I take off the wheels. I'm refitting the keeper plates back in position because I need to get the paint off these also. One pair down, one to go. And then I can dismantle the suspension. The suspension arm just lifts off with a screwdriver and the springs simply pop out of the holders. So here is a kit of parts for a front bogie. I removed the springs from the centre bearing and lifted the bearing out. When I first looked at this engine and looked at this centre bearing, it didn't look right at all. On the right hand side of the picture is the main mounting, and this was originally screwed into the bearing block, which is not really going to work. But never mind, I will sort this out in a future episode. I'm now going to go away and remove all the wire brush bristles that are stuck in my face. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.